Hey guys, it's Liz Kelly, here to tell you that we have a brand new podcast called Halloween Unmasked, premiering Monday, October 1st. Here's a sneak peek.
There's trouble in the suburbs.
A teenage girl named Laurie Strode crosses a quiet street toward an ordinary house to find her friends. But Laurie doesn't know that her friends are dead, and she doesn't know that she's walking right toward the masked killer, Michael Myers. The movie is Halloween.
And Halloween it was a breath of fresh, putrid air.
He's a pure, unknowable evil.
I'm film critic Amy Nicholson, and this is Halloween Unmasked, a podcast series from The Ringer celebrating the remarkable and terrifying rise of America's most revolutionary horror film. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts to Halloween Unmasked, and watch your back.
I think the scariest part was that he doesn't die at the end. So when you're 10, it's like, that guy's still out there. we gotta get him.
Today's episode of the Rewatchables is brought to you by Hotel Tonight. By showing you top-rated hotels with unsold rooms, Hotel Tonight makes it easy to book your stay at an amazing rate. And even though their name is Hotel Tonight, you can book in advance. It's perfect for spontaneous weekend getaways, 3-day weekends, staycations, road trips, business trips, booking a place with a pool, and more. So to start scoring amazing deals at incredible hotels, go to hoteltonight.com or download the app now.
I only came here to do two things: kick some ass, drink some beer. Looks like we're almost all out of beer. Not out of podcasting, though. Dazed and Confused coming up.
And he was in a cult. And the cult was into aliens, man. You didn't know that?
Somewhere between free love and safe sex.
Benny!
Tie-dye and buttonfly.
We should be up for anything.
Ed Sullivan and MTV.
Sounds stupid, doesn't it?
There was a generation.
The 60s rocked. The 70s obviously sucked.
That was dazed and confused.
Maybe the 80s will be radical.
Rated R. Now playing at select theaters.
All right, Sean Fennessey is here. Chris Ryan is here. It's the 25th anniversary this month-ish of Dazed and Confused. There are some anniversary pieces about it. I rewatched it last night. A staggering amount of young Hollywood talent. It's a movie that, if it was released now, would have Matthew McConaughey and Ben Affleck on the poster, along with who else? How would they do the poster? Be those two?
Zellweger?
Zellweger.
Yeah, in a flash.
Would sneak in.
Yeah.
Who comes right after that? I think is Parker Posey the most famous person after that?
She might be.
Parker Posey.
Yeah.
I guess it would be McConaughey, Affleck, and then just a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah.
But this was a cool era. You had School Ties. What year was School Ties? Like 91, 92? Uh-huh. Then you had, what was the other one that was like the big group movie?
I mean, movies that were drawing from this generation.
Dead Poets.
Yeah, Dead Poets.
So it was like Dead Poets, School Ties, and then this movie were like the three movies that found basically 15 actors that we would spend the next 25 years. When did you first see this movie?
I don't think I saw it in the theaters. I think this was just a movie that was on through college. It was a great VHS.
Couple years later.
Yeah, a couple years later.
How about you, Fennessey?
I didn't see it in theaters. I was probably too young to see it in theaters, but whenever I saw it, it was the first time seeing it after like 100 more times were coming in 100 consecutive days. Like it was one of those movies that it was like, this is a part of me now. I will watch this all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was on TV or on VHS or what it was, but it like instantaneously went into the movie lexicon. And I don't even really know why. Like, I guess we'll talk about that.
It was another slow burn movie.
It was what?
It was another slow burn movie. I didn't see it for 5 years.
Really?
I didn't see it till 1998. And it wasn't anything personal against it. Then that there was like about 2 years there where, especially because in my pot smoking circles of Massachusetts, you got to watch this movie, man. It's great. I'm like, all right, whatever. And then it was just on cable one night. And I think it was after Good Will Hunting came out when I saw it. I was like, is that Affleck? I just kind of started watching it. And then it was like, wow, all right, I'm going to watch this all the time.
I saw this at a crucial time where I could still remember high school, but I had just enough perspective to like laugh about it and think about it in a different way, which is, I think it resonates for a lot of people around my age because it lionizes a kind of time in your life that you will look back on as this crucial, important time, but you have just enough distance from it to be like, that was stupid. This guy was probably a jerk. These rituals were probably ridiculous, but I still remember these things like crystal clear.
76, 77, 78 are great Hollywood years for just like high school movies. High school is very distinct. There's not even cable TV yet. It's just everything centers around kids trying to figure out somewhere to go. And it was usually just them driving. And sometimes they would end up like in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Linklater said
over and over and again.
He was trying to make American Graffiti for kids who grew up in the 70s. And obviously that's what Lucas was trying to do in 76 or 73, whenever American Graffiti came out, for kids who were born in the 50s. So it's this timeless thing that keeps getting rebuilt and rebuilt. Do we have I guess mid 90s is coming out soon, which is Jonah Hill's movie that is kind of like, in some ways, going to be his version of 20 years ago when I was in high school. Here's what my life was like. And it's something that kind of happens with every generation.
Yeah, I think that when people tend to make movies about this generation now, they tend to be closer to something like Spring Breakers, or even the sort of more like genre fare, like 13 Reasons Why, where it's like how social media is destroying our brains. And
this movie Assassination Nation just came out last week, and that's kind of what that is. It's like social media in high school is destroying everything.
So would like Superbad be the last movie like this, where it was just like, let's just all go hang out?
Yeah, I mean, we had smaller, more personal versions of it. I think both 8th Grade and Lady Bird kind of do this. You know, they kind of try to put that stuff on screen, but they're so focused on one character. This movie in particular really bounces around. There's like 18 characters that you have to follow, which is really
they
rare.
Keep introducing them too. I remember when I was a kid growing up in Brookline, I had this babysitter named Teddy who was in high school because my mom was working at night. I think my parents had just gotten divorced, and and we got along really well. And one night he's like, "I'm going to take you out with us." And I'm like, awesome. I was like 9. So this is, 1978 range. So we went out and we got in his car, and it was like he picked up 2 of his friends, and they just kind of drove around for a couple hours, and we ended up parked somewhere, and they were like drinking, and then that was the whole night. And then it kind of came back, dropped me off. And that was what framed my entire thought process of what happened when kids came out until I was like 16. It's like, so when you go out, you get in a car and you drive around, but that's really what the 70s were like. They didn't have anything to do.
It's also what the 90s were like.
Yeah.
I can tell you for sure that I would drive around in cars, park in places, go to a park called Memorial all the time. You'd go and you'd just stand in the parking lot and you'd drink.
But you could at least rent a movie back then and do stuff like that. You could at least
we weren't doing that
hang out and be in a basement.
Yeah, that's true. We did do that. But I mean, it does feel like it's still kind of timeless. Like this is how teenagers while away the hours,
Yeah.
I also thought that this movie captured a kind of a social fluidity that is actually, in my experience, truer to life than a lot of Hollywood renderings of teenage life, where it's like very, very, very like the battle lines are drawn. The jocks are over here. The nerds are over here. Yeah. And this movie, it's like you just wind up in the backseat of a car with a bunch of people and you're like, oh, hey, man, like, what's up? And it's not as like you have to show some sort of like pass to get into a guy's car or to talk to somebody. It's just a lot more lifelike. That's what this movie has, is it has that feeling of it's organic. You just, you might just be standing next to a soda fountain or a pool table or getting a beer or talking about basketball, and you have no idea who you are. And it's like, oh yeah, this guy, I know him kind of, but sure, I'll go out and like go on a beer run with you. Whatever, man. Let's do it.
Yeah. Do you have beer? Do you have pot?
They also do
you have a fake ID?
Yeah.
Those are like really the 3 crucial questions.
They do something really, really smart. Linklater, who I think is loosely basing this on himself, makes Randall Pink Floyd the center of the movie. And Floyd is friends with the jocks because he's the quarterback. He's friends with the nerds, which we just kind of accept at the beginning of the movie when he's hanging out with like Adam Goldberg.
I think it's because he's smart.
Maybe because he's smart.
Yeah.
And he's also friends with stoners who are neither jocks nor nerds. And he's this kind of like fulcrum of the movie, And even though the movie doesn't really have a main character per se, he really brings all of those parties together. It's just a really smart way to get all the groups going and make it. And it also, I think you're right, Chris, like for high school, for me, there were definitely like popular crowds and not popular crowds, but everybody knew everyone and everybody was interacting. It was more sociable than you'd make it seem if you were like watching The Breakfast Club, and it felt like this tribal warfare. It wasn't really like that. It was like sometimes a jock would beat up a nerd, but a lot of people were friends.
I think it was a really fun time to be in high school, which is one of the reasons I love this movie. There was like a specific music scene happening that's like the star of this movie is the soundtrack.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a murderer's row of great songs that specifically belong to 1976 range. And not to step on some of the stuff later, but they spent like 1/6 of the budget just on the music.
It shows.
I think they spent $200,000 on the Aerosmith song that starts it. And it's like, Sweet Emotion is crucial to start this movie. Free Ride's crucial to end the movie. But it was this music renaissance from like 72 to 77. And even like Kiss and Frampton. And 76 was one of the best music years ever. So to put this movie in that year, I thought was smart.
Yeah.
And by design.
Most of my high school class was pretty into rap by the time this movie came out. And certainly from 93 to 95, when I graduated, it was mostly like rap was the dominant cultural expression of my high school.
Yeah.
But we recognized, I think, or I certainly recognized once I saw this movie and since then, it's not necessarily even the music as much as the importance music plays in people's lives.
Yeah.
And especially at that age, as you're starting to identify yourself through music, you start to just basically prioritize that to the point where Aerosmith tickets would be the most important thing, just the same way maybe going to see Wu-Tang Clan would have been the most important thing, or going to see the Beastie Boys, or going to see Tribe Called Quest, or going to see Def Leppard, or going to see Green Day. It doesn't matter. It was like...
Or dressing someone up like a member of Kiss.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just a great time. And, if they do it a year later, all of a sudden now disco is a little bit in it, and this feels like the last pure, all I care about is rock and roll and getting stoned and going into the woods and trying to get laid and drink a beer, and that's high school.
Yeah, and Linklater was so rigorous about the songs that he picked. If a song came out 3 months after the setting of the movie, they wouldn't put it in, even if he really wanted to put a Deep Purple song in that he was listening to kind of at the time. If it wasn't specific to, I guess is it May 76 or June 76?
Yeah.
Then it wasn't going to be in the movie. And
that's how I am with my Spotify playlist when I try to find it.
The miracle of this movie is its mundanity. Like when you are growing up and you're in high school, the things that blow your mind are going to play mini golf with your friends, or the first time you have malt liquor, or the first time you hear a single or a CD single of something. It's not those major, like, I fell in love that night moment. It's not, that's the night I threw the winning touchdown pass. It's these weird little like micro moments. And it's because your life hasn't become regimented yet. Every single night in high school has like this possibility that when you're in your middle age and you're like, every day I go to work and I have a family and I see the same people and we do the same things, and there's a degree of responsibility and professionalism and decorum in my life. Like, this is that time in your life where everything is basically improv every day. And you're also learning how to express yourself and how to feel about things. And I think he captures that. It's so true to life. And still is a great movie. He does a great job of not making it like Slacker, of making it this kind of diner, has a little bit of John Hughes quality to it that you're just like, man, I would just watch this over and over again.
I think John Hughes he said he wanted to make a John Hughes movie, but set in 1976.
Yeah.
I think that was.
I think it was almost like a Hughes movie.
Or an anti-John Hughes movie. What was this
conscious, it was like, I'm conscious that I'm making something contrary to that. You know what I mean? Like, that has like a certain idea about the 80s. I'm going to make a movie about high school that has like different ideas, right?
The thing about Linklater is he's always trying to make something that feels real, even if it's animated or done in different time. Like, if you look at what he did with Boyhood, he's trying to capture something accurate to people's lives over a long period of time. If you look at Slacker, it feels like quasi-documentary. It's not as scripted as most movies are. If you look at this movie, he's trying to make a movie that looks, sounds, acts, and feels like what high school was for him in Texas in the 70s. There's something kind of admirable about that. But it doesn't mean it's less entertaining. This isn't like a Ken Loach movie or it's not like a 7-Up documentary. It's a fun movie.
Yeah, he said at an event for a reunion for the cast and the crew and everything, he said the drama is so low key in Dazed and Confused. I don't remember teenage years being that dramatic. I remember just trying to go with the flow, socialize, fit in, and be cool. The stakes were really low. To get Aerosmith tickets or not, that was the big thing.
By 2001 or 2, I love this movie so much I used it for the movie quotes gimmick.
Yes.
For NFL.
That's a special award.
Really is. And that also, those 4 years also was probably the most pot I ever, that was my biggest pot per week's, whatever my stat is for that.
Your poundage was high.
Yeah.
And this is a movie specifically designed for that. Klosterman wrote about it, and he said he wrote about it for the Criterion thing and said he had seen it like 65 times, and 64 he was stoned. It's funny if you're not stoned, but it's also, there's a few movies like this. Like, I think Outside Providence is like this too. There's a select small group of movies that if you're stoned just become way funnier. It's almost like there's these little Easter eggs that you're putting on these stone goggles and you can see all these things you didn't see. This is the champion of that.
You guys probably saw it in high school.
I saw a little bit after, but yeah, like
a little bit
right
after.
close to
It was
yeah.
before high school for me, so it's kind of like set the template.
I saw it after college
for how you're supposed to engage with high school. So it was sort of like Slater is not only what I thought a stoner was like, but what all the people who became stoners in my high school acted like.
Yeah.
You know, like they were modeling themselves after these archetypes that he created. And even though Linklater's trying to do something that's true to his life, like he's oddly invented this whole vision of like what a person is. Like this is what a young woman acts like if she's like Parker Posey's character. This is what a young woman acts like if she's like, you know, Joey Lauren Adams' character. This is the Slater. This is the Sasha Jensen Don character. Like weirdly, it's just a life imitates art thing.
I don't want to get off on too far of a tangent here too, but at this point in the mid 90s, like classic rock still held a pretty big piece of the popular culture pie. That was still something that it was pretty normal for teenagers to become like big Pink Floyd and Hendrix fans. And even though grunge was happening and rap was happening and everything else that was going on was happening, like WMMR, the radio station in Philly, would play like full Dead concerts, and like guys I knew would like be like, "Are you listening to the Dead show tonight?" You know, it was still like a really huge influence at that time. So that was crucial to, I think, people getting into this movie. It was like almost this Disney animatronic world to live in if you liked classic rock and liked that culture.
It did something interesting though, because like classic rock before I saw this movie in my head was Beatles, Stones, you know, Led Zeppelin, Bob Marley to some extent, weirdly like Cream, 60s bands, early 70s bands. This movie is full of like pop metal and pop hard rock, like ZZ Top, Black Sabbath,
Deep
Kiss,
Purple,
Deep Purple, like all these bands that I actually just didn't. I'm from New York, like that stuff was not big. You could see it being really big in the South, but it didn't have a lot of legacy. So it kind of turned me on to a ton of records that I probably wouldn't have listened to otherwise. That's cool.
We listened to a lot of that in the mid 80s, but we also, like when I was in high school in the mid 80s, we really only had about 15 to 17 years of decent music to choose from and not a lot of CDs and things like that. So all these songs, like the Frampton Comes Alive concert album, that was like a go-to CD. And Steve Miller wasn't in this. I don't know if he missed the
he might have been a little earlier.
Yeah.
But Steve Miller, a lot of the stuff that was in there, some of those early Aerosmith albums.
No, Living in the USA is in this. Steve
Miller.
Miller.
Right.
Yeah.
I wrote in 2000, I guess 2, no movie captures the mid-70s better than Dazed, that surreal, goofy time between the Vietnam War and the MTV era, when people did drugs with no repercussions. Unprotected sex was accepted and encouraged. You could haze and humiliate people without the threat of a lawsuit. People spent their nights driving around aimlessly, getting high, tossing down brews, knocking over mailboxes, and hanging out in abandoned fields. That now we're 40 plus years away from that. Like, I wonder... My daughter was watching like 20 minutes of this with us yesterday, me and my wife. And her big note was like, why are they being so mean?
Really?
It was Parker Posey screaming at the kids near the beginning.
All right, you little freshman bitches.
And then we're going to get you with the paddles. And she's like, what is this? Why are all the kids so mean? And she just like couldn't process it.
My high school experience was kind of like this. We didn't we didn't have like quite so rigorous initiation routines, but there was definitely initiation stuff. There was definitely they didn't use paddles, but there was high schoolers definitely drove to the parking lot of my middle school and taunted us and waited for us to come out of school before we were going to 9th grade. Like that literally happened in my school.
Yeah, it's also is really common for conversations to turn on a dime to becoming roastings. Like when Slater's like, check you later. And then Don's like, God damn it, man. Why do you keep saying corny shit like that? Like that was pretty much 88%.
Girls don't want to hear that shit.
Yeah, that was like 88% of my interactions in high school was like, this is pretty cool. It's like, is it cool? Shut the fuck up. Like, like it would just blow up in your face.
Very aggressive.
I was like, oh, I should open my mouth.
I definitely went to school with some Parker Posies too. Darla, you know, that's a type. That's a type
Darla
of person.
Existed.
Yeah.
One of the things I really like about this movie that I've never seen totally captured in another movie is the whole phenomenon of the juniors becoming seniors.
Oh yeah.
And their chest just puffing out. And it's like, this is the year we own the school and we're going to go undefeated, man. And I mean, that's a real thing.
Totally.
I can't think of other movies that really nailed that. It's like you basically buy an ego from the store and you get this giant ego.
It's in Friday Night Lights a little bit. A little
Yeah,
bit in the
that's
TV
fair.
show because they start. I think they're sophomores.
Did
when
you
they
guys
start.
did you have a lot of interaction as a junior with the senior class? Was there like, we're going to hand over traditions to you and this is how you're supposed to be?
I mean, I went to a small prep school, so we were on teams with all the older kids.
Okay.
I don't know what it's like at a bigger high school.
I went to a big public high school. I had the thing you were describing earlier, which is that I was lucky to kind of fall in with a couple of older kids when I was making the transition from 8th to 9th grade. And so I got to go out with them a couple of times. And that was very instructive. And that kind of like teaches you how to be in the world a little bit because you say one stupid thing and they're like, don't be stupid. And then so you don't ever say anything like that ever again. There was no like baton passing from junior to senior. I don't think it was more like talking to much younger kids about the way to be.
It also tapped into the seniors going after the 9th grade girls. Cause that's a thing
definitely
all the time. And it was always there was always a certain type of guy that did it.
Yes.
It was just kind of there, and I'm sure it's still there. Like I think about it with my daughters going into 9th grade next year, and it's like you're not dating anyone who's more than a year older than you. You're breaking it to you now.
I will say, I never came across a Wooderson in my real life. Like I never met a guy who was like
a unicorn,
21, and trying to date 14-year-olds.
No, I met Woodersons popped up more when I was in like late teens, early 20s, and there would be a guy, and they'd be like, "How old's that guy?" He's like, "That guy is 32."
Right,
like,
exactly.
Really. And he's still at the bar every night. That's interesting. Okay.
Kicking and Screaming has their version of Wooderson as the Eric Stoltz character.
Yes.
Who's
Just
there for
hanging out
like
in
8
the
years
college town.
taking classes and stuff. A lot of the high school hierarchy stuff, I've just never seen done better than this. Let's go through. They spent $7 million on it. It made $8 million. It's an official flop.
Considered a bomb.
Yeah. And it's weird because it's a 1993 movie. And I think in 1993 is like singles. And 1993 is a very distinctive year. I don't feel like Dazed and Confused. It feels like a 96 movie to me. Like it came out like 2 months before Swingers, but it didn't. It came out in 93. And I honestly don't even remember it coming out. I'm sure I read the articles and just like, oh, whatever.
It's a slow burn thing you were talking about. It took a long time for it to get into the consciousness.
Yeah.
The biggest what if here too is this movie is that Linklater had imagined it as a much more experimental film.
Yeah.
Like he had imagined doing this movie where they were basically going to do 2 shots. It was going to be 2 guys in a car, or however many guys in a car, listening to all of, I think, Fandango by ZZ Top.
Yes.
And the movie was going to last as long as the album, and they were just going to talk over the
3 times. They were going to. The
were gonna
record
play
is
3
30
times?
minutes. They were going to play it 3 times. It'd be a 90-minute movie.
Yeah, and it was just set in a car.
That's a bad idea.
But that's also like, think about how different. Who knows what happens with Affleck if that happens? I don't even know.
But Linklater weirdly actually did this a few years later with this movie Tape, which is a very complicated movie, but it kind of all takes place over one night.
Yeah.
And he's obviously obsessed with like capturing real time. When things are actually happening. That goes back to the Boyhood thing. Tape, all the before and after movies are like that too. I'm glad it didn't turn out to be the Fandango movie though.
93 on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics, 78 from everybody. I know you care about that, Sean.
I don't.
Roger Ebert.
Here we go.
3 stars. He liked it. Ebert's on a hot streak on the Rewatchables.
God bless the dead.
He's had 5 good opinions in a row. Congratulations to him.
Congratulations to Roger Ebert.
Congratulations to Roger. I'm coming around on you. Ben Affleck, Parker Posey, Randall Pink Floyd, played by the London who was not on Party of 5, but the other London. They had a nice little power play of who was
Jason, not Jeremy.
Jason. Jeremy had a lot of problems.
He did have a lot of
on
problems.
Party of 5. Cole Hauser. It's a good engine. It's a good engine. Joey Lauren Adams, who would become famous on Chasing Amy a couple years later, Mallrats as well. Adam Goldberg, who played Chandler Bing's roommate in Friends.
That's right.
Among Saving Private Ryan and many other things. McConaughey was Wooderson.
Anthony Rapp, who was in the news recently.
He was.
For not great reasons.
A well-known stage actor in New
tied
York.
to the Spacey stuff.
Yeah.
Giovanni Ribisi's sister.
Marissa.
Yes. Yeah. Now known by some people as Beck's wife.
And a couple people who never made it, including Mitch Kramer, when we get to him. Slater, the long-haired stoner, played by Rory Cochrane.
Great performance.
And last but not least, a borderline comedic genius, Don Dawson. And I don't know what happened. I don't know why Sasha Jensen wasn't one of the biggest stars of our life.
I agree. This was on
my
list.
I don't understand it. I would love to find out what happened to that dude.
I don't know. You didn't mention Michelle Burke, who's also someone I'd like to talk about.
Mitch
She
Kramer's
plays
sister?
Jody. Yeah.
Makes a move on Randy Pink Floyd at one point.
She does.
Very
I
70s.
got a lot of Michelle Burke thoughts. Should I hold them?
Are they negative or positive?
They're neither negative nor positive. They're just like, why wasn't this person famous? She was in the Coneheads movie and this movie in 1993. And I was like, well, here comes a new huge actress in America. Right. And then she basically like never worked again.
Yeah, that's weird. There's a couple people like that. Like Don, how does Don leave this movie and not become a breakout star?
I don't know. Sean Andrews too, Pickford. You didn't really see that much of him in the next 10, 20 years.
Yeah, that guy seems like he could have been like a serial killer in a movie at least, right?
Fell in love with Milla Jovovich on this movie. They got married briefly.
Did they?
And they got to annulled quickly. And then he didn't really work that much.
He was 21 and she was like 17. We're going to get to him later. Coming up, we have the categories, and this pod will get a lot more fun. First, let's take a break.
Today's episode of The Rewatchables is brought to you by DC Universe. Do you like DC? Do you love DC? Are you what some people might call obsessed with DC? Then you need to get DC Universe. It's the only place you can watch the all-new live-action Titans, which premieres this fall. Not to mention Young Justice Outsiders, Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing, Stargirl, and Harley Quinn, which will be coming your way in 2019. New episodes come out every week, which means you'll always have something to look forward to. DC Universe has features that you just have to see for yourself, like a world-class comic reader that even works on your big screen TV. It also has a thoughtfully curated, regularly refreshed library of 2,500 modern and classic titles. A members-only store full of exclusive merchandise and discussion forums filled with fans and talent discussing all things DC. This isn't another streaming service because nobody needs that. This is what you might call the ultimate DC membership, and it works on your favorite iOS and Android devices, as well as Roku, Apple TV, and Google Chromecast. Join for just $7.99 a month, or better yet, grab a $74.99 annual membership and save 20%. Just join today at dcuniverse.com. Today's episode of The Rewatchables is brought to you by Simple Contacts. Simple Contacts lets you conveniently renew your contact lens prescription and reorder your contacts from anywhere in minutes. It's vision care for the 21st century. The Simple Contacts vision test is self-guided and takes less than 5 minutes. It isn't a replacement for your periodic full eye health exam, but it will save you so much time when you need to renew and reorder. It is designed by ophthalmologists, and a licensed doctor reviews every test, so you skip the office visit, but not the care. Simple Contacts has all the brands and types of lenses you're familiar with, so you never have to shop around to find your lenses at the best price. And best of all, Simple Contacts saves you money. The vision test is only $20, and their contact lens prices are unbeatable, and standard shipping is free. Look, I would like to say I'm friends with Bill Simmons, and I can tell you, this is a guy who needs contact lenses. You know, like you may see those beautiful blues, and you're like, man, that guy, he probably has vision like a hawk. Not true. Bill Simmons needs contact lenses, and when Bill needs his contacts, he gets them through Simple Contacts because it's a time saver and it's a money saver. And that's what matters to a guy. Time is money to Bill Simmons. Get $20 off your contacts at simplecontacts.com/rewatchables, the official contact lens of the Rewatchable podcast, or enter code rewatchables at checkout. That's simplecontacts.com/rewatchables, or enter code rewatchables at checkout to get $20 off your contacts.
All right, most rewatchable scene. Normally, this is an easy category to figure out the 5 or 6 choices. This whole movie is a rewatchable scene, and it's not really, it's even hard to separate it into a cat. All of a sudden, it's nighttime, and it's like just there's no time. I never know what time it is until the very end when all of a sudden daylight's out. I came up with these 5. If there are any more, tell me. And it's more from like, I could show you a picture from the scene, and you could instantly be like, oh, that scene. And I know the music's playing and I know exactly what happens. So the first one is Wooderson going to the pool hall in slow motion, and they're playing Hurricane, Bob Dylan. It's just fucking great. It's just a great 4 minutes.
Yeah. We may already have our answer.
Yeah. It's a great 70s hang. It's just like the entire movie cracked into one thing. When the guys go breaking the mailboxes, I just always enjoy that. Don Dawson in the front seat just laughing his ass off. And people did that in the 70s. We did that in college in the 80s. For Halloween, we would go to this rich part of Worcester. And and people would have the pumpkins out, and we would just go and we'd break the pumpkins and drive around, and we thought it was like the funniest thing. Like, people are idiotic in the 70s and 80s.
I love when the angry hillbilly pulls a 9mm on them.
Oh,
That's
yeah. The paint getting dumped on O'Bannon. Nice little sting operation. They get the 9th grade girls involved. They get a little retribution.
One of the most committed Affleck performances of all time. He's really fucking pissed.
Gets in his car. We never see him again.
That's right.
He's just gone.
This performance and his performance in Mallrats was like, I guess this guy's just going to play a dipshit in every movie. And then now he's, Batman and he's in Armageddon. Yeah.
Adam Goldberg getting his ass kicked. I really enjoy. I don't know why. I like how
it's a very realistic fight.
It's realistic. Yeah. Like, he put some thought into it and outthought himself, and the guy just gets him. And they cut to Cole Hauser. Somebody's trying to separate it. He's shoving the people back to kind of let him go. And then finally, Randy Pink comes in and with McConaughey and saves it. And finally, the ending is just phenomenal. I actually think it's probably the best 2 minutes of the movie, because you see all the characters in one place. They're just happy. It's 4 people that would not have been together 8 hours earlier, and they just kind of end up in that car together. They're listening to Slow Ride, and the car's going. Then it just sees the road, and it's just the road's going to nowhere. It's going over this imaginary hill, and then it ends. It's just really a smart way to end it.
Yeah, I like all the little stuff that leads up to that, too, with everybody going back to their house. Like Wiley Wiggins' character going home and his mom catching him, and Sabrina going home and getting the kiss from Anthony Rapp at the end of the night. Like, all of the kind of, we're wrapping this up is really well handled. Yeah, that's where
Pink kind of just admits, like, this football's not for me, man. And Don's like, you think it's going to be a big deal? And he's just like, all right, man, you got to do you or whatever. It's got to be the Emporium. It's got to be the entrance to the Emporium. I was asking Sean this yesterday. If you were filmed walking into a bar or a party in high school, and you had to pick like the quintessential song to soundtrack you doing that in slow-mo.
In slow-mo?
What do you think you would pick?
Probably that song.
Hurricane by Bob Dylan?
No, it's just so good. How can you top it?
That's like saying if you were getting thrown out of a garbage truck, it would be like the second half of Layla. But like, I guess I said to Sean,
I see. If it's like a different type of
it's like if it's your life, and if it was like your life in high school, you're
that's
walking
a really
into
important
a party.
Question.
What's the song that's soundtracking your slow-mo walk into a bar or a party?
I don't know, Sean. You answer first.
Can I Live by Black Rob?
That's great. I said Cash Rules Everything Around Me by Wu-Tang.
So both of you went with rap songs or hip hop songs.
Yeah.
Kids in the 90s. I mean, there's a million rock songs. There's like Whole Lotta Rosie by AC/DC. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I mean, like that would be like I would definitely say like it would be cool to do Houses of the Holy, but like if we were saying in the mid 90s, that's
what in that time what would have been the appropriate song.
Of my high school class sat around for almost 2 years, basically just reciting skits to each other from Wu-Tang's first album.
This would have been mine. This was always my dream to the beginning of the BS podcast. You know what song it is?
Is this The Doors?
Yeah.
Is this Roadhouse Blues?
Are we allowed to play this? No.
Roadhouse Blues by The Doors?
No, LA Woman.
Oh, LA Woman, okay.
The beginning of it's so good. Can I walk somewhere in slow motion?
Simmons,
maybe Jason Gallagher will make that happen.
You're really like, you're begging to do The Doors on Rewatchables. Is that Ray Manzarek's music guy here?
CR, you say the day and the time for The Doors Rewatchables.
Okay, man.
And I'm there. I think it's interesting that you both picked hip-hop songs. I don't know what that says about either of you.
It says that we
most
are obsessed with and grew up listening to a lot of rap.
That's fine. What's aged the best? Feel free to add your own choices.
Sure.
McConaughey, the 70s music, the Cars, the cast, the high school hierarchy thing. What else?
The limited temporal narrative structure, the fact that it's taking place over one day, never gets old for me. Man, every time I watch that, I love movies or TV shows that are like condensed into this action takes place over X amount of time. And it really does feel like a full day. And it kind of reminds me of when you were back in high school, the social part of your day would kind of start as soon as you got out of that last class. And then you would have like some kind of practice or a game, and then you would go out afterwards. And like, that was like 7 to 10 hours of just like hanging out and doing fun stuff. And he really captures that. He really captures that day to night feeling.
For Chris, the action is the juice.
It is.
As always. It's really hard to say not the cast. I mean, this is McConaughey's first movie. You know, so if you combine McConaughey, Affleck, plus hitting on this great golden generation, plus putting all of these people who would go on to not have careers and creating indelible characters for them, that's actually maybe even bigger. Because if you look at McConaughey in 1993, even if he's never done anything, it's easy to say like, that guy's a fucking movie star.
Yeah,
like,
but there's like no tape on this guy. This is like drafting a guy with no tape.
He said he had done like one Miller Lite commercial. That was it. It's incredible.
So, I'm looking up when A Time to Kill came out. What was that, 95?
Yeah, there's this whole thing with McConaughey around this time where I think he's on the cover of Premiere Magazine.
96. I specifically remember the intense McConaughey as an A-list
because it's Lone Star and A Time to Kill.
And for A Time to Kill, they really went for it. And
but
it was like Vanity Fair, Premiere,
doing
Entertainment
John Sayles
Weekly.
and Richard Linklater, but he's also doing Grisham.
And they're like, this guy's a star. And that's when Dazed and Confused really started to get the cult classic stuff because they saw him as Wooderson.
He tells this story over and over. He tells it in a making of documentary about Dazed and Confused. On Friday, he was no one. And by Monday morning, after Time to Kill had opened, he was a famous person getting stopped on the street. And it was that quick for him. Mm-hmm. He'd done a couple of things, obviously, before this, but that movie changed his life. And it's weird because that movie is definitely less well remembered than Dazed and Confused. I mean, Dazed and Confused is a much more generational, beloved movie than Time to Kill. Although I do remember liking A Time to Kill, I will say.
But Time to Kill was good. Yeah, I defended Time to Kill.
Grisham was like,
yes, it deserved to die. I hope they burn it hell.
Grisham was like the MCU back then. It was like the Marvel. Those were like, we got so excited for The Firm and The Client. And
I watched The Firm like 3 weeks ago. I'm starting to warm up to The Firm rewatchables.
Yes!
I did it for you guys.
Yes!
I know Zach Mack hates when I clap, but that warrants a clap.
That's huge.
It's a really interesting movie.
Oh, wow.
I'm ready for maybe season 7 of the rewatchables.
I'll spend 2 hours talking about Hackman.
I have more.
Brimley in The Firm.
Great Brimley. Great Hackman in that movie.
Yeah, that's it.
Hackman, like weirdly sexual and romantic for no reason at all. It's like, why is this guy attractive? He's like anyway.
A lot of confidence.
He goes right after it with Triple Horn.
I think the answer for what's aged the best is the combo of McConaughey and the cast. And I really enjoy seeing McConaughey at that point of his career. I have a little more McConaughey info in a second. I missed a couple that aged the best. If you're ever watching Dazed from the beginning, after you've seen it too many times, count how many times Don gets into a car with somebody. It's like 15. He's just always getting in a car. He's in a car. It's like Don's whole character, other than there's like 2 scenes in high school, but he's just in a car basically the whole time.
He loves to cruise.
Another thing that's aged the best, after this movie, after it, a young pitcher by the name of Tim Lincecum became famous and looked like adult Mitch Kramer. Yeah. And that became a running joke basically for the entire 2000s.
Yep.
He really did look like Mitch Kramer, who was a pitcher in the movie. And then the other one that's aged the best, I just noticed this in the rewatch this week. At some point, the 3 nerds in the car, they talk about the theory that President Ford's football concussions were affecting the economy. And I was like, the President Ford CTE subplot, that is aged the best.
Yeah.
It's relevant.
And
do you think President Ford had CTE?
Yeah.
It's in play. If we believe Chevy Chase's portrayal of him, yeah.
That was great. What's aged the worst? Number 1, Mitch Kramer. The biggest flaw in this movie. He's fucking terrible. His performance is bad. He's a bad actor. He's miscast, and that leads to the second what's aged the worst, which is Mitch Kramer's pitching, where they had to to use a cutaway. It makes Freddie Prinze and Summer Catch look like Pedro Martinez in 99. They had to use the cutaway, but when they use the cutaway, you can see him releasing the ball, and he's releasing it like next to his neck, like he's had like a herniated disc. I just can't believe they tried to sell us.
I know it's high school or maybe even JV, 8th grade. So he's like the innings eater, right?
This is like Texas baseball. You can't have, I have to believe. So I think Linklater, I think everybody wants him as his reaction to fucking up the Mitch Kramer casting over anything else. Because those guys in Everybody Wants Him were awesome looking baseball
That might be
players.
the most credible baseball movie ever made.
Yeah.
Everybody Wants Him. It's
the guy with
so
the Burt
weird.
Reynolds mustache?
Yes.
That guy was like Mike
What's
Trout.
that guy's name? That guy's a badass.
I like that guy.
Oh, the Tyler Hetchling?
Yeah, the guy from Teen Wolf.
He's like Mike Trout.
My only counterpoint is that if you go back and look at baseball players from the 70s and 80s, it's not like they were athletes in the way we think of Bryce Harper now or Mike Trout. Like Mike Scott, the old Houston Astros pitcher, that guy looked like a science teacher, and he was like, I think he won the Cy Young Award.
Yeah, let me tell you something about that guy. He's a fucking cheater.
Oh,
and he tried to cheat the Mets out of the World Series in 1986.
Come
fuck
on.
him. Here's my counter to your counterpoint. There's footage on the DVD making of Criterion of Wiley Wiggins having a catch with Richard Linklater. It's one of the saddest things I've ever seen.
So
in
he
my
can't
life.
throw?
He can't catch the ball from 3 feet away. I mean, he is completely uncoordinated.
So your objection is if they're not casting him for his pitching, they sure as hell weren't casting him for his
I
acting.
did research on this because it's the Rewatchables. He lied.
Great.
The part of it was that he was a baseball pitcher, and he said, "Yeah, I've played baseball." And then they got there, and he literally couldn't play baseball, and they had to edit around it. As it is, not a big deal unless you've watched the movie 100 times, but it ties to a bigger question of what did Mitch Kramer bring to the table in this movie, and what would have been in the hands of like 12, 13-year-old River Phoenix in this movie, or somebody of that caliber. It's not like there weren't good actors in 93 who could have played a 14-year-old.
It's true, but I do think, even though he's not a good actor, I agree with you. He's got something. 8th grade is such an awkward time, and a lack of confidence is so important. He's like evincing
the bad
something.
acting works in his favor.
It does. He keeps touching his face and putting his hand at the bridge of his nose. That's like his signature move. And that is something that you do when you're nervous and you don't know what to say and you're trying to figure out how to be cool around people. He captures something even though he is...
You don't think River Phoenix could have done that?
I think River Phoenix could have done that.
This is like weird. You're like, what if James Dean plays Mitch Kramer?
I wanted more from that character.
What if Dante era Pacino plays Mitch Kramer?
He's bad.
What if the Doors Val Kilmer?
What do you think of Kristen Hinojosa, who plays Sabrina? She's the other 8th grade
I liked
girl.
her. I thought she was good.
Yeah. She plays it very low key.
Yeah.
You know, it's a movie that's full of big performances and she's more laid back.
Mitch had to be cooler. And I got to be honest, we had to see him pitch. That was such a big part of, because basically they're setting it up as like 4 years from now, he's Randy Pink Floyd.
Yep.
I've got to believe that in the 8th grade, you have to have some sort of aura about you. And I need to see you play sports. Randy Pink Floyd, I have no idea how big he was. I have no idea how realistic it was that he should have been the quarterback, but I believed it. He carried himself like a quarterback.
What position does
he
Don
threw
play?
Football. Oh, Don was like, I would say defensive end.
He looked like a linebacker
tight end.
to me. Yeah.
Maybe outside linebacker.
You sure? Yeah.
Crazy though.
Like a safety maybe?
Cole Hauser was clearly the best guy on the team.
What do you think Cole Hauser played?
I think Cole Hauser was left tackle.
Okay.
And I think he was like defensive end captain.
You think Mel was like a right guard?
Which one was Mel?
The black guy.
I think Mel was defense.
What is O'Banion?
I'm going to say he was
O'Banion
like the
was
best
right
guy in the
tackle.
defense.
He was like Pink literally says to him like he's a good guy to have blocking for you.
Even though he repeated senior year. I can't believe I didn't put more thought into this before. What positions everyone played?
What kind of QB?
Where was McConaughey? Where was he? Like a running back?
Tailback. Yeah, definitely tailback.
Yeah.
You don't think Wooderson was a QB?
Although we do get a look at Wooderson's receiving skills when he throws the keys. So maybe he was like a Jerry Rice style wideout.
Different offense. This is pre-West Coast offense too, right?
Yeah. This is a lot of ground and pound.
Yeah. So we're not looking for a lot of yak here. We're not looking for a lot of yards after the catch.
Do you think Pink was like Manzelish?
I think he's like Stabler.
Yeah. No.
He's slinging it.
No way. I think he was a scrambling, really fun quarterback.
That's what I mean, like a Manziel.
Okay.
Like a young Jim Zorn.
Tarkenton.
Yeah, like a young Tarkenton.
Okay.
All right. So you're not with me on Mitch Kramer. I think that's the wrong
Well,
opinion.
I just think it's okay that he's a bad actor. And I would say that in almost no case but this one.
The other one they missed out on, and the IMDb backs it up, is that Sean Andrews, who you mentioned earlier, who married Milla Jovovich, played Pickford. He's key in the first 20, 25 minutes. The research of this movie, they actually phased his part out as the filming went along.
How come?
Because nobody in the cast liked him, and he was actually in a feud with Jason London. He fell in love immediately with Milla Jovovich, isolated themselves from the rest of the cast, and not to step on internet research, but they all lived in a Radisson together, and it was just like a free-for-all party hookup.
So it was like Survivor.
hang.
They had a showmance. They got targeted by the Alliance.
The movie literally opens with them driving in that incredible car. I mean, the first thing you see is those two together, that couple.
So as everybody was turning on this, and Linklater was a big like who's vibing with who kind of director, totally willing to add scenes and ad libs. Here's McConaughey, who's supposed to be in 2 scenes because he's not in the class, and he's like lights out and clearly a movie star. And they kept giving him scenes, and apparently at the end, it's supposed to be Sean Andrews driving the car at the end, but by that time they had already kicked him out to the curb. And McConaughey's on the football field scene at the end, which was supposed to be the other guy. And McConaughey's in the last 15 minutes of the movie, basically. It was not supposed to be.
I would love to know whether or not I mean, Nicky Katt hadn't really done a lot of movies at this point, but he was somebody who was like a pretty cool actor, like right around then. And he's in that scene where him and McConaughey are looking under the hood of the car. He's like, "You got to get some shoes on this, man. Look at White Lightning over there." Like he's standing next to McConaughey, and like I wonder if he's like, this guy's basically an extra. Because at that point in the movie, I wonder if they had started to phase him into the movie more.
McConaughey definitely stole Sean Andrews' thunder.
Although
Sean Andrews not good in
Cat's
this
in A
movie.
Time to Kill in 1996, so maybe they're boys.
But like all of the most memorable Wooderson scenes are all either improvised or written on the set. The LIVIN is written by McConaughey on the set with Linklater. Even the scene where he rolls up to the Top Notch and he invites the nerds, particularly the redhead, to the party, like that scene wasn't in the script, and they just created it to kind of draw more characters together, and Wooderson was the glue. It's weird that he wasn't there from the beginning, but he obviously becomes the second most important character in the movie.
Well, also he's in What's Aged the Worst, because Wooderson's thoughts on statutory rape have not aged great.
Right. He may be a predator. Maybe a predator.
Yeah, we'll just leave that one
not
there.
Great.
So you're a freshman, right?
Yeah.
All right, so tell me, man, how's this year's crop of freshman chicks looking?
Wood, you're gonna end up in jail sometime really soon. I know that. Fact.
No, man. No, man, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
That's what I love about these high school girls, man. I get older, they stay the same age.
Yes, they do.
The hazing and bullying is also not aged well. What has aged the worst for you, Sean? What's your pick?
I mean, not a lot. There's the version of the country that we live in now where it's like none of this stuff is acceptable and society has changed.
43 years all the Wooderson stuff.
That stuff's kind of out the window. But as far as like the making of the movie, the actual watching of the movie, it holds up pretty well, partly because it's a period piece. So you're not holding it against the time it was made, because the costumes are great, the music is great, the performances are good, it's full of stars. Like, it's not really riddled with too many problems.
Mitch Kramer.
Yeah, it's Kramer's pitching. You got me.
Kramer's pitching. Oh, it's fucking bad. Now I want to watch them having a catch.
It's really sad.
Now I want to watch the 86 Stros versus the Mets with Sean.
I have the DVD, actually. So if you buy the box set of the 86 World Series, which I have, it has all the games against the Red Sox, but it also includes
NLCS.
The game 6s and 7 of the NLCS, and shows us some of Scott's chicanery. And he's a crook. And I'm glad he's banished from this game.
Casting what ifs. Affleck and Hauser were cast over Vince Vaughn. He was the runner-up for both parts.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He lost to Affleck first, and then the Hauser part, they're going to cast him, but Linklater was worried that he looked too much like Affleck. And didn't want them to be confused.
I don't think that Cole Hauser is a very convincing Texan.
No.
By
the way, I don't know how many of these people were convincing Texans. I don't think it mattered.
Not a lot. That's one part of it. There's not a lot of accent work in the movie.
Maybe that's
besides
what's
McConaughey.
aged the worst.
Yeah, maybe the accents.
Yeah. Renee Zellweger auditioned for Parker Posey's part, did not get it. Claire Danes did not get the part of Sabrina.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She looked a little too young, they decided.
She's a better actor than the woman who got the role.
Ashley Judd did not get the part of Jodie.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what part she did get, Chris? Val Kilmer's wife in Heat 2 years later.
I'm done with you.
Guys, know where I can get some bread? The Dion Waiters Award is, I don't even know what we do with this.
It's a tough one.
McConaughey might be in the movie too much for it. Same for Don Dawson.
I think you can't give it to McConaughey. Let's be a little more creative.
I was thinking Posey. She's in like 4 scenes.
She was going to be my vote.
Affleck
Posey
would be the other one.
At the high-pitched initiation scene when she's like, up, 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 and like losing her shit.
Hooray! That was pathetic! Let's try it again! That means get up, you lazy little bitches! Get up! Get up, you heard her! Eric! That was karma, you little slut girls, you little freshman sluts! Get up! Get up! 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 Up!
I cracked up when I watched it this
She's
week.
like fucking Hannibal Lecter in this movie.
So funny.
She's
I think
so
Posey's
good.
the answer. I think a lot of other people are ineligible because they're in it too much.
Okay.
Posey's in 4 or 5 scenes and
Slater
just
in it too
completely
much?
scaring. Slater's in it too much.
Because Slater
has
kind
long
of iconic.
monologues in it.
He does. He does.
Incredible thoughts on George Washington's wife.
I look forward to discussing that.
The Joey Pants Award, named after Joe Pantoliano for those guys, that guy, those guys. You mentioned Clint the Bully, played by Nicky Katt.
Yeah.
He's really, I know he's Nicky Cat, but I also don't know what other movie he's been in, even though I've seen him in 9 Things. I remember he was in Boston Public. He was in A Time to Kill.
He plays one of the stupidest, least relevant characters in the movie The Dark Knight.
Is he one of the cops?
Yeah, he's one of the cops who's being chased by the Joker while he's escorting Aaron Eckhart to some place to jail,
that like
I
a
guess.
Cameo, or was that like he was like, I'm in The Dark Knight, this is great. They just cut his role out.
Column A and column B, I guess.
So he's the runner-up for this. He's also probably could be a little more imposing to be Quint the Bully. Seems like he's about, 5'7".
He's a little smaller, but he does have that like greaser attitude.
What the fuck are you looking at?
Yeah, exactly.
Token? But the answer to the Joey Pants Award is the one black guy. When you said his name, I didn't know who it was. What's his name?
His name's Melvin Spivey.
In real life?
No, his name is Jason O. Smith in real life.
What else was he in?
Life.
Jason O.
The
Smith.
guy who played Mel is named Mel.
Jason O. Smith notably does not have a Wikipedia page. So I don't really know.
He is we should almost name this the Jason O. Smith Award. It's like
Jason
a
O.
separate
Smith has 2 credits to his name on IMDb.
Yeah.
One is Dazed and Confused. The other comes 9 years earlier in a movie called Overexposed, in which he plays Jerry Solomon. And that's it. We've never heard from Melvin Spivey.
What's the log line on Overexposed? Does it have a Wikipedia page?
This is quite a salacious cover here. It says a royal scandal. A beautiful rock singer in need of some extra cash poses for some sexy photos for a men's magazine without telling her boyfriend.
So why do you think Linklater, I was fascinated by that there's just one black guy in this movie. Do you think Linklater was like, should I just have no black people in this movie, or I'll have one, I'm covered? Or
I know the answer.
What's the answer?
There's only one black guy and everybody wants some too. And it's because he had one black friend growing up.
Weird.
Right? It must be. What other reason? Why would he keep doing it that way?
Who would have been your dream cast member if we're doing the up and coming McConaughey and Affleck, all these people on their way up?
From that generation?
Who's the 93 black guy that should have been this?
The 90s?
Is it like Don Cheadle?
No, this is a no-brainer. It's Will Smith.
Yeah. I was going to say my dream addition to
you
this.
want like a character actor?
No, I want somebody that I wouldn't have known who he was before this movie, and then they had a whole career.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like a McConaughey Affleck type.
Oh, but for the black character.
For the black character.
For Mel.
Like, I'm saying 93, we go back.
So I can't cast Philip Seymour Hoffman as Mel.
No. He could have been in this movie, though.
Yeah, I know. He's like right around then.
I go Don Cheadle.
What about like Method Man?
Oh, wow.
Who would have been not known at this time, but could have been a credible athlete?
Let's go to Half-Assed Internet's research. I mentioned a couple of these already. The double used in Mitch's pitching scenes. When you need a double for a sports scene, you should just hang it up.
It's not good.
I mentioned the Radisson. Richard Linklater originally wanted the Led Zeppelin song Rock and Roll for the movie playing during the end credits. He didn't get it. Jimmy Page agreed for Linklater to use the song. Robert Plant denied him. As always, Robert Plant was a fucking asshole. Not that Jimmy Page wasn't, but those two weren't great.
Those guys like money.
The beer in the movie was real beer.
Really?
The miners did not drink beer, but everybody else did. So I think that scene, one of the best 10-second scenes, is Cole Hauser just hammered when he tries to stand up and burps and sit back down.
I love
He
that.
might have actually really been drunk in that scene. Man is said 203 times. Mitch touched his nose 42 times. Yet another bow in the arrow of the Mitch Kramer sucks thing. And then I mentioned the other stuff about Jovovich and Sean Andrews, the annulled marriage, all that stuff.
Can I just say few other internet research bits that I really like? One is that Linklater made mixtapes for the actors, for their characters, which I really liked.
I love that.
Individual. So for Adam Goldberg, it was all like ELO and people like ELO.
And then also that he got sued by a couple of classmates.
Yeah.
Later on down the line as saying that they were disparaged in this movie. I was like, how can you imagine suing a guy over Dazed and Confused? I guess if your name was O'Banion, you might be like, hey, that did not cast me in a flattering light.
That suit got thrown out though.
Can I, quick aside, you know who's on the cover of Wooderson's t-shirt, right?
Yeah, Ted Nugent.
The Ted Nugent album.
By the way, you can buy that t-shirt. It's online.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I spent some time at Ted Nugent's house once. This is for another story about a piece I never really wrote. But I went hunting with Ted Nugent when I was in my early 20s, when he was hosting a reality show about hunting. And it was one of the most absurd experiences of my life.
Where was it?
It was in Michigan. It was outside of Auburn Hills. And he would put all this quote unquote wildlife on his property, his sort of acres and acres, and then he would just hunt it down and then kill it. And,
It's not funny.
And
I'm laughing.
And then he would butcher it like in real time. Like he would murder it and then just immediately start cutting it up and show you like how all the body parts of a deer work and how to kill a turkey and pull its feathers out and everything. He was simultaneously like the worst person I've ever met in the world, but also a really nice guy. It was this weird combination. I've never met anybody like him, but I've never even told this story. I don't think beyond like my family.
I knew this.
Yeah, it was weird.
Is he still alive?
A really weird 2 days. Yeah, he's still alive. He's really controversial now because he's a hardcore right wing guy.
Yeah.
But the records in this movie are great. And every time I see the movie, I immediately think of my experience with him, which was very strange.
Which song was it?
There's two different.
He has two on it.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's two Kiss songs.
He has Stranglehold and Hey Baby. Those are the two.
Apex Mountain. You could argue there's zero Apex Mountain people unless you want to say Linklater, but I think the second Before Sunrise movie was his Apex Mountain, personally. Everyone else, I mean, unless you were going to say, obviously, Jason O. Jones, this is his Apex Mountain.
I believe it's Jason O. Smith.
Jason O. Smith, the lady who played Jodie.
Yeah, Michelle Burke, man. What happened?
Michelle Burke.
Sean Andrews.
Sean
played
Andrews.
Pickford.
Would you
I think
say
Rory Cochrane.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot
but
of
these are not like famous people.
No.
These are.
You don't think it's McConaughey's Apex, obviously.
God, no.
Right.
No,
What
he
about
won the
Wiley
Oscar.
Wiggins?
What's that?
Yeah, it's Wiley Wiggins.
Yeah.
Anybody who's never really been seen
Right.
again, I think it's. But that doesn't really count. Usually we do Apex Mountain for bigger people.
What about Dina Martin, who plays Siobhan? Never seen her
Swingers
either.
is her Apex Mountain.
Oh, she's in Swingers.
She's so good in Swingers.
That's right.
I still have a crush on her. Dina Martin, if you're listening, I still have a crush on you. Trejo Buscemi or Michael K. Williams, who would have fit the best? You could have had a young Michael K. Williams as
Mel?
As Mel.
Yeah. What about, I mean, Trejo would have been fun hanging out at the Emporium.
He could have been there. He knew
So
Witterson.
creepy.
Buscemi could have been one of the coaches. Making him read
Buscemi
the
is
letter.
like the offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
reading the letter. All right. No more Mark Ruffalo. They knew. It is now the Saul Rubinek. You want to do it, Chris?
Sure. I treated you like a son, and you stabbed me in the heart.
If you missed the True Romance podcast, we renamed the Mark Ruffalo category the Saul Rubinek Stab Me in the Heart category.
That's the first time Zach's gotten to hear that live.
Yeah, Zach wasn't here the last time. Overacting? I guess Affleck?
Jesus, Steve, let that little fuck get away! What's the matter with you? It's fucking pitiful! Fuck. Freshman shit is. Fuck are you looking at? Huh? Kick your fucking ass right now. Damn it!
I think it's Affleck.
It has to be,
That was going to be my vote.
He really turns it up 9 notches when
And I
the
think that
paint
that's
goes
a
on him.
bit in the movie. They're like, God damn, O'Banion just takes this stuff so
He's going
seriously.
for it.
Yeah.
Ben
But I
Affleck,
don't blame him for it. I think he played it correctly.
one of the most disturbing sounds in modern times is Ben Affleck squealing like a pig.
Yeah.
That's really upsetting. He's very committed.
What's funny is that was a big 80s, 90s joke.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how movies will push a sense of humor thing, but then just too many years go by and it dies. Like, if we did a squeal like a pig joke in the Ringer office, nobody under 30 would know what the hell was going on.
I always
Like,
thought of
why
it
are
as
you
like
squealing like a pig?
it's like a Deliverance thing, right?
It's a Deliverance
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, it's the Ned Beatty
Yeah.
gets assaulted in a very bad way.
Yeah.
See?
Accurate.
Not good.
Do you think
Scarring.
that Anthony Rapp and Adam Goldberg's characters are self-consciously trying to act like Woody Allen's 70s characters? Like with that,
Like they're parodies of them?
yeah, like that's informing their character there.
I don't think in 76 Woody had hit big yet in a way that he would have resonated with people in Texas.
I don't know if that's a note that Linklater gave, but that's always how I interpreted Adam Goldberg's performance.
Right.
I was like, he's just doing Woody Allen. Like, this is Woody Allen.
Interesting. I never thought about
Like
that.
the whole joke, and I guess you're right about Anthony Rapp too, because the Abe Lincoln joke, that's like a Woody Allen joke.
Yeah.
You know, having the dream about a
The way they
naked
they're
woman.
walking and like gesturing at their temples.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like, oh, and I've been thinking about this, you know, like.
The thing is, though, he's made 10 movies since where characters do that. So I think it was just his
Yeah, I
way to
guess
have
you're
like
right.
smart conversations.
I was just
But
trying to find
I
like
like the Woody thing, though. You guys talked me
pop
into
cultural
that.
touchstones for different characters
Yeah,
and
that
them
makes sense.
designing themselves after that.
76 is the year of Annie Hall, right?
That's 77.
77.
What
okay.
Woody movie would people in Texas have seen?
Well,
Sleeper?
Everything You've Always Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask is
Yeah.
out by then. Sleeper is out by then. There's a bunch of movies. Bananas is out by then. Take the Money and Run. There's a
Let's
bunch
pick
of
some
movies.
nits. We already picked the nit of Mitch Kramer's pitching.
Yeah.
Anything else? Do you think you could drive around with that many beer bottles in your trunk?
I think the drunk driving in
I just
general.
think the beer just bouncing around in the trunk. I think you open the thing, it's just going everywhere. I never
honestly. I've done a version of that. I don't think it's that crazy.
With
Like in
100
college,
beers in your trunk.
Yeah,
really?
Because you fill it with ice.
You
So
really
it's
have?
stable. Yeah, but you have to line it with a garbage bag, and then you fill it with ice, and you put enough ice in there so that it's packed tight and that it doesn't move.
Sean had some dark years in Long Island.
Sean's just out there with Ted Nugent drinking
tough, man.
100
They get the
beers.
Jets
I was in college in upstate New York, and there was nothing to do.
Jets and the Islanders.
You and I were in Boston. It was just the height of metropolitan.
Yeah, but
living.
I went to visit my friends who went to school in upstate New York and Western Massachusetts, and they totally would have put beer in the trunk. You're in the middle of fucking nowhere. Hamilton College, my best friend went there.
It was effective. That's when I was listening to Wu-Tang and Black Rob.
Any other nitpicks?
It's really hard. I always just feel so in the flow with this movie.
I just love this movie. I don't really have
The
any
movie has a
nitpicks.
couple of weird continuity errors where it's like, how did that person who was in that car end up in that car? You could kind of pick nits around that stuff. But
I noticed
it has
one,
a little bit of the Amy Adams sharp objects. Like at a certain point, driving would be impossible for these guys.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, there's one when Don is in the car when they almost get killed by the guy with the gun, and then the next scene he's somewhere else, and it just seems like, how did he get there?
What about Mitch Kramer being able to so easily purchase beer while 13 years old?
I think that was very 70s.
70s? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have another nitpick. Jody makes a run at Randy Pink Floyd, brings him into the woods and starts making out with him and that whole thing. There was no real sign for it, but there was no payoff for it. That was the one scene where I don't know why that happened other than just to say he's the quarterback. He can hook up with any of these.
I think that's what it was.
girls.
I think that's what you're trying to tell you. I mean, she's an important character because she warns the guys not to be too hard on Mitch, which essentially introduces Mitch into the movie.
Bad job by her.
I think it's just that he's like very desirable and that he appeals to a lot of different kinds of people.
Who did you want him to end up with?
I just have a thing for Michelle Burke. I
think he should end up with Michelle Burke.
I agree with you guys. Burke.
Yeah. Jodie Kramer, she was
Burke's
cool.
the champ of this pod, I think.
Burke.
Good stuff by her.
There's a
and Don.
Maxim oral history where she said she had some shots at the 20th anniversary or 15th anniversary, whatever, and made some comment about Jason London, about how they had kissed, and she was in, but didn't realize his wife was there.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was bad.
Jeez.
Best quotes. That's what I love about these high school girls, man. I get older, they stay the same age. This was hilarious for about 20 years. Not as hilarious lately. I only came here to do two things: kick some ass and drink some beer. Looks like we're almost out of beer. If these are the best years of my life, remind me to kill myself. A fucking classic. A great high school yearbook quote. All right. Became basically the joke with McConaughey for years and years.
All right.
To this day, still his catchphrase.
Well, all I'm saying is that I want to look back and say that I did the best I could while I was stuck in this place, had as much fun as I could while I was stuck in this place, played as hard as I could while I was stuck in this place, dogged as many girls as I could while I was stuck in this place. Who said that one?
Don. Sasha Jensen.
Yeah, Don Dawson. And then say, man, you got a joint? No, not on me. Be a lot cooler if you did. The older you get, the more rules they're going to try and get you to follow. You just got to keep on living, man. Livein. You want to hear the George Washington speech? Just the tail end?
I think we should play it.
George Washington, man, he was in a cult. And the cult was in the aliens, man. You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, man, they were way into that type of stuff, man.
George tote weed.
Absolutely, George tote weed. Are you kidding me, man? He grew fields of that stuff, man. That's what I'm talking about. Fields.
He grew that shit up in Mount Vernon, man.
Mount Vernon, man, he grew it all over the country, man. He had people growing it all over the country, you know? The whole country back then was getting hot. Let me tell you, man, because he knew. He was onto something, man. He knew that it would be a good cash crop for the southern states, man. So he grew fields of it, man. But you know what? Behind every good man, there's a woman. And that woman was Martha Washington, man. And every day George would come home, she'd have a big fat bowl waiting for him, man, when he'd come in the door, man. She was a hip lady.
I also really like Slater saying, imagine how many people are out there fucking right
That's
now.
a good one. I love Slater saying, Martha Washington, man, she was a hip lady, man. It's great stuff.
She was a hip lady.
I love Slater.
And I will say something about this, the 93 to 96, there were these little movie monologues that really meant a lot because we didn't have the internet yet. I remember there's this movie Sleep With Me that wasn't great.
Dude.
Eric Stoltz.
I'll do a fucking
Tarantino's
rewatchables
in the
about Sleep With
kitchen
Me.
and does the Top Gun thing.
Tom
about
Cruise,
how
Maverick.
the whole thing. And it was like mind blowing. It's like, what is this? This is the greatest theory I've ever heard. Like, I just wish this was the whole movie.
Like
these guys in the
internet
kitchen.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the internet's like, there's a million things like that now. But in 93, 94 was a big deal. Even the Martha Washington thing, I was like, oh man, great point about Martha Washington. Now the internet's full of this bullshit.
And the cult was into aliens.
I was just going to say that. It's preceded by him saying George Washington's in a cult. I also, this is one of the best ad lib lines in the movie. It's when Parker Posey is just wrapping up her initiation and she's like, what are you looking at? Wipe that face off your head, bitch. she said in a making of that it was in some sort of, it was in like a Chekhov play, but it was a bad translation.
Oh my
so it
God.
translated literally to wipe that face off your head. And she just said it stuck with her and she used it. I thought that was a great one.
Don had a great one when early in the movie, they're just walking down the hall in school and he just fake punches this kid that's walking by and keeps going. It's a classic crazy football bully move. All right, probably unanswerable questions. First of all, what was Lee High School's 1976 football record?
Great question.
I think they lost. They're not going to state.
10-3,
but I think they're in the mix.
Yeah, I was thinking 9-3.
Yeah.
I think they weren't expected to get into state, but then made the tournament the last week to upset somebody.
Pretty obviously occupied coaching staff. It's not like a math teacher who's also coaching football. It's like they had a football coach. He had coordinators. He had like a player personnel liaison guy who was like sign this piece of paper. So it was big enough, but I don't think it was on the Friday Night Lights level of like, if you guys don't make state, it's a national emergency.
Did you guys ever sign any oaths of any kind in high school? That was kind of weird.
If we're going to get that was probably a nitpick.
Okay.
The whole movie, just dramatic tension revolves around this weird oath that everybody's supposed to sign. But we've already established in 1976, nobody cared about anything.
Everybody's getting shit-faced at the Emporium every night.
It's a stretch. We think Randy Floyd played, right?
I do, yeah.
He came back.
Yeah.
Who did Randy Floyd end up with at the senior prom? Was
Don.
it Joey Lauren Adams?
Don. They didn't go. Yeah.
Jodie Kramer?
I mean, he's probably just getting high with Wooderson and Slater, you know? Like, that's his vibe.
Yeah, but who was his date?
Probably Joey Lauren Adams.
Yeah, Joey Lauren Adams.
I think they broke up. I think she found out about the Jodie making a move on him.
I feel like monogamy was a little fluid.
He moved over to Jodie. Jodie was irresistible.
Could be. Joey Lauren Adams is very drunk, though. There's that famous scene where she falls down and then Parker Posey falls down with her. You could see Joey Lauren Adams wasn't really with it that night, so I'm not sure if she ever got that information.
Why didn't Jason London have a bigger career?
He's kind of a cipher. The character is important in the movie, but I never walk away from this movie feeling like that guy rules. I want to see him in more stuff. He's okay. He's fine.
It's incredibly difficult. I think that just because you're great in a movie about high school does not necessarily mean you're going to translate to being great in movies about people in their 20s or their 30s. Those parts are so perfect because they're like, you can play a type, but then you can also imbue that type with whatever your own personality traits are. You don't have to like really be this like anti-hero yet. So I think that it's not surprising that you see a lot of people that are in these John Hughes movies in Dazed and Confused that don't go on to like these huge careers.
Can I have a counter?
Sure.
My wife loves Randy Pink Floyd.
Really?
Yeah.
The
Absolutely
character
loves
or
him.
the actor?
The both.
Okay.
Just one of her all-time favorites and says she's not alone.
Okay.
Didn't understand why he didn't have a bigger
Justice
career.
for Pink.
I think he was in this movie a game manager, like a Ryan Tannehill.
Right.
You never want him to do too much.
Let's go back and think about who we've compared Pink to. Fran Tarkenton.
Yeah.
Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
And now he's a Ryan Tannehill.
No, I meant his character in the movie, though.
I know.
They didn't want too much of him at any point, but he's in a lot of scenes, and he's the thread to everybody, and it's like, all right, let's say a better actor played him. Let's say like Mark Wahlberg played Randy Pink Floyd.
You said a better actor.
That was good. Who?
Can you imagine Wahlberg playing a Texas quarterback?
It would have Randy Pink Floyd would have had an edge in the woods.
No, it's like, what if it's Leo? Leo is in the perfect age range for this.
Oh,
Leo would have been great.
You okay with Leo?
I'm sure I'm okay with it, but I just think that there's a certain perfection to the fact that a lot of the people in this movie never went on to like almost sully this movie with being like, oh, later on, this guy was Ron Kovic, and like I don't know, like
I gotta say, Sean just blew my mind.
Leo is
Randy Pink Floyd,
but then it has to be almost in your mind. It has to be a movie about.
I think
Pink.
he would have overpowered the movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a certain like stability to that with the way it is now.
Leo would have made some interesting choices.
I mean, guys, it's a better movie if Leo's in it.
Yeah.
He's an amazing actor.
I think we win if Leo's in it. Did you have any other unanswerable questions?
Yeah, that I wish I could know how good that Aerosmith concert was.
Yes.
That's the best time for Aerosmith. 76 is like, that's 2 months
And it's
after
at the Cotton
Rocks
Bowl,
comes
right?
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're going to the Cotton Bowl. Like, that would have been a fucking awesome
So I
concert.
researched that to make sure that was true, and they played in Texas 3 times that year.
They did.
So he
Yeah.
must have researched
That's
that.
just a great time for that band. I kind of understand why they're so obsessed with getting tickets.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it's
think
back in the saddle. Like, that's what that record is.
I think 76 was like a top 4 music year.
It's probably pretty good.
Think about like just a lot of people on Apex Mountain for whatever the music version of that
absolutely.
is.
There's
and
also-
also concerts were so important back then. It was the only way you were seeing anything.
Yeah.
There's also like a ton of popular music that isn't even represented because it's meant to be Texas. It's like there's no Stevie Wonder in this movie. There was just so much happening in the world that was so good at that
Yeah, like
time.
funk was huge then. Yeah.
I'm not positive you could play music and I don't know if the cars had cassettes yet.
Probably still
I think that was like a late
Yeah, it was
70s.
I think they're
thing.
popping
Yeah, it was
8-tracks.
8-tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was what he had imagined the ZZ Top record would be played on.
Right.
Who won the movie? Our choices are Linklater, McConaughey, or Martha Washington. Because don't sleep on how
going
much of
Don?
a win she took in this. Don Dawson?
Yeah.
How could he have won the movie?
Not over Wooderson.
Oh, you mean like within the like the story of the film?
Who won the movie?
It's
How
got
hard
to
is
be.
this?
It's got to be Wooderson.
Chevy Chase won Fletch. Like,
That's easy. That's
His
like
name's at the
Harrison
top
Ford
of the
won
poster.
Indiana Jones. I know.
but you
Yeah.
can make a case Linklater won the movie because this launched
Yeah.
a 25-year
Yeah.
career.
Yeah, I think that this makes
good.
him more than a sort of experimental filmmaker who's emerging from that indie scene. This makes him kind of like this 2-track filmmaker.
Here's my case for McConaughey not winning the movie.
Okay.
When I did the thing I did in the movie quotes in 01, I had this long paragraph in there where I took a shot at him, where it was basically like, then McConaughey, and then we thought he was going to be a big star, and now he's just doing like a bad Wooderson impersonation rom-coms. Like, his career did crater there.
Sure.
Oh, for sure.
Early 2000s.
Hence the McConaissance.
And then he
that
had the
was all about a
McConaissance.
renaissance.
Linklater, I think, has been one of the 9 most important directors we've had
He's high.
since 90.
Is this the first Linklater rewatchables?
Yeah.
Yes. We've talked about doing sunrise or sunset before.
Yeah.
No,
I
we
mean-
talked about doing the 5-hour trilogy. Just gets dark.
And just us crying the entire time?
Yeah.
It's you guys and your wives.
No.
That's what I want. That's the podcast I want to listen to. Is you guys do all 3 of those movies with your wives.
That third one's a tough one. You just kind of look at your wife on the way out like, oh,
It's a war.
want a hug?
It's an interesting hang. Yeah.
Yeah. Linklater, it's probably Linklater. I
I
mean,
think
he
Linklater.
every time he makes a movie, even if it's not one of his best, it's always interesting. He's had such a great career.
Yeah, and this is a masterpiece. Like Tarantino has it in his 10 best films of all time. At least he did a couple years ago. And I think that this is the movie that probably emerges with Pulp Fiction. And I don't want to hear anything about Bruce Willis's girlfriend. It emerges with Pulp Fiction out of that era as like the standalone masterpiece.
I think it is the definition of a rewatchable. And something we didn't mention at the top. You can jump in at any point in the movie. The
Yeah,
whole
it
movie's
really
designed
makes
that
no
way.
difference.
There's no beginning, middle, and end to this movie.
If
it
anything,
just goes.
if you get in after the baseball, you don't have to suffer through Wiley Wiggins' fake off-speed stuff.
Did we do a shout out to Watch the Leather Man?
Watch the Leather Man.
That's the other one. God, there's so many lines that jump out.
The
Martha Washington.
before
She
we
was
go,
a
we
hip lady, man.
we should mention the spiritual successor to this movie. Everybody wants
Yeah.
some, which is
Underrated, I think.
like a year away from being rewatchable. I feel like
I hope
I
it
need
has
to watch it
developed
7 more
a
times.
cult. I don't know. I mean, I know everybody that
It's
works.
happening. It's
People
in the
that
middle
work
of it.
here, like this movie rules. I didn't even make like 8 million. That also was a bomb, and also was a movie that was put out just like Dazed and Confused by a major studio that didn't really get behind it. It's the same. It's basically the same story.
I feel like
Universal didn't get
Linklater
behind
did
this.
that intentionally with the exact same strategy.
Maybe. I don't know.
There's no way. Who's going to go see that movie in the theater?
Everybody wants them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
That's
the kind
not-
of
that
thing,
movie's not
especially as
making it.
Glenn Powell maybe gets bigger.
It's
in
Glenn
the
Powell
years.
and Zoe Deitch. They're
Yeah.
both in that movie.
Yeah.
And now
And
they're
a bunch
both
of
going to
other
be
people.
huge. Yeah.
No, that movie's really good. I like that one.
I hope that movie catches on as like on Netflix.
Yeah.
Because if it's on Netflix for like 2 years, it becomes like a big favorite of people.
It had a Netflix run.
Did it?
They tried to get it going. Yeah, it was on there for a while.
It deserves a bigger audience for sure.
It'll have a run. Anything else? The rewatchables. So we're going on a little hiatus, and we're going to do a couple horror movies, and then I think Shay and I are going to do all 4 Rockies at some point before Creed.
Jeez. So
Yeah.
it's not much of a hiatus.
When you say all 4 Rockies, there's like 8 Rocky movies.
Nah, there's only 4 that matter, and we've already done Creed already.
That's
we did
true.
that one before. You weren't there. You were on vacation.
I was on vacation.
Did you see the Creed 2 trailer?
I did. There are some people calling it the greatest trailer of all time. I think that might be an overstatement, but
That's definitely overstated.
I appreciate the enthusiasm.
I had no idea Lundgren was in it, so I almost had a heart attack.
Oh my God. Are you okay?
I was like, I just couldn't believe it.
We should probably check you for a
How'd
stroke.
they get him?
Yeah.
How'd they get him?
How'd they get him? I can't believe that.
Can I just use this moment of public broadcasting to declare Roger Sherman's take on the Rocky movies being bad as one of the worst takes in the history of takes?
He's outed that before.
Yeah.
Or do you only do Hoosiers?
Yeah. No, he's outed it before. He wrote about Hoosiers, but he genuinely thinks the Rocky movies are bad, which needs to be stated as a bad take.
He talks in a British accent around the office.
I know.
What can you do? Fellas, it's been fun.
Thanks, Bill.
Catch you around on the next Rewatchables.
Today's episode of The Rewatchables was brought to you by Hotel Tonight. Let's talk about Hotel Tonight by showing you top-rated hotels with unsold rooms. Hotel Tonight makes it easy to book your stay at an amazing rate. And even though their name is Hotel Tonight, you can book in advance. It's perfect for spontaneous weekend getaways, 3-day weekends, staycations, road trips, business trips, booking a place with a pool, and more. So to start scoring amazing deals at incredible hotels, go to hoteltonight.com or download the app now.